we have Yash Gupta. He is going to be talking about uh, if you are a React developer and if you are looking to figure out what React Native is like, I think this is the perfect talk for you. Let's have Yash on the screen with us.
Perfect.
There he is.
Is this it? Is like a bit tilted, like you. Hmm.
Oh, I guess we can all see you. That's absolutely fine.
Wait. Okay. Nice. It's
All right. How's your
much better
afternoon
now.
going, Yash?
Yeah, it's going great.
Welcome
Uh,
to the React and React Native virtual meetup. It is a pleasure to have
that
you
was
with
a
us.
really amazing lineup before me, and like really enjoyed those talks. And even I'm thinking about getting into Swift because like knowing React Native with some native languages is a great it's a great thing to be. And so yeah.
Well, I think Gurman would be very happy if you do that. Uh, so, as a small introduction to Yash, he has been a main lineup speaker in React India in 2019, which was very
Yeah.
recent. He is interested in JavaScript, React front end design, and he is a gamer.
Yeah,
So, I
game.
hear you play Fortnite and Among Us.
Yeah, I do.
I have just started playing Among Us. I think we should add each other and play.
Yeah, sure. We can
I think
hop
we
on
can
Discord
test
and
our poker face skills.
yeah.
All right,
Uh,
perfect. So, Yash, I'm going to leave you to our viewers and all the
okay.
best for your presentation. Take
Hmm.
it away.
So my talk is going to be about reacting to the native. And before starting my talk, a little bit about myself. I'm Yash Gupta. I'm obviously a human, and I'm a web developer. And by human, I mean I code for humans. I make applications for humans, and I make them with empathy for other human beings. So, first of all, I want to quickly go over why React Native. And like as I was introduced, like I was introduced as someone who is going to tell about going from React to React Native. But even if you're considering to begin React, React Native, like you don't know anything about React, I'm still going to make and trying. I'm still trying to. I'm still going to try to convince you to learn React Native, and maybe React Native could also be a better choice than. Wait, yeah, and I'm still trying to going to convince you to use React, learn React Native, and use it. So let's see why you should consider using React Native. So as a young person, apps have really attracted me, right? So I grew up seeing computers. Computers were gigantic, of course. Like you could not carry a computer everywhere. Then we had laptops, which also had a barrier of carrying around. You could not do that. And as a young person, I saw like the whole world is moving towards app, and I developed this sort of opinion that in future we are going to have many apps, right? But like as I grow old, I think that PWAs and web technologies are really good now, but it's still like native applications have like certain perks to them. PWAs have certain perks to them, but that was just young me trying to get into Android development and things. So let's talk about the entry barrier. That is a big thing. So when I was beginner, entry barrier was a big thing to me. So let's say I'm a beginner and I'm trying to get started with coding. And what is actually my I think I need to put my phone on silent. Yes. Okay, nice. Yeah. So as I was a beginner, like I needed to understand a lot of things. So my first reaction was what technologies to begin with, and my first reaction was let's try to learn Java because I have a Windows machine, and Android was really prevalent in India, and it is still one of the major markets in India. When it comes to smartphone, everybody uses Android, so why not learn Java? So there was this huge entry barrier. I misplaced these slides, but this is how a hello world looked like. And 13-year-old me had no idea that like that what is public static void means. And my sort of reaction was something like this, like mind blown. What's happening? Like as a curious person, I really need to understand what's going on in each and every line. And if I'm not understanding what I'm coding, then I feel really helpless, right? Even with when I started with web and I started using create react app, when I was just using boilerplates and things, I had this feeling where I knew nothing about babel and webpack things, bundling. And this was such a big black box to me, and it like made me feel like an imposter. Now contrast this with something like hello world of HTML. If you are a beginner, and if I am a beginner and I'm really young, I don't have anyone to teach me programming, then I would more likely to be drawn toward making something like this thing right here than anything else, uh, than anything like this, right? And let's talk about more barriers. So yeah, I was curious person. I thought that whatever the code is, let's try to download Android Studio and try to write some code in it, right? So Android Studio is a full IDE, and like not everybody is privileged to have good hardware. Even like I had a PC with 4 GBs of RAM back then, and Android Studio was sort of laggy for me, but sort of laggy to me. But then I started using HTML. Like so, Android Studio was not only laggy; it was very confusing to me as a beginner. I'm gonna put this straight. So then I decided to start writing HTML because that was the closest thing to like having my hardware and things working. And the good thing about React Native is that you can literally write React Native code in Vim. And I certainly write React Native code in Vim too. So after like getting past this first barrier of getting started, I started incorporating my JavaScript code. I was already good with HTML, CSS in a couple of months. It definitely took me a lot more time to get good in CSS. I was writing really bad CSS, but anyways, I got really good with HTML and CSS. Then I started incorporating a bit of JavaScript, and one of my prime. And then I came to know about these web frameworks technologies like React. And when I was like looking through the benefits of Reacts, then what struck me was that I could write like web applications, and also I could write things with React that would work on both Android as well as iOS. So it was truly cross platform. And like I was a bit skeptical about the performance and things, but we will talk about that. Let's talk about how a basic React program would look like. So this is what a basic React program looks like. And to me, this like as someone who knows a bit of JavaScript, I think this would be much simpler to explain someone who has like written some JavaScript with HTML, CSS than explaining object-oriented programming. And but that's just me, right? If you feel like that Java is like better for you, then go ahead. I don't have any strong opinions that you should not learn Java as a first programming language. But as I've shown earlier, it was a it was certainly an entry barrier to me, and I tried learning it and things just didn't work out. Yeah. So yeah, React Native was truly cross platform. And so for making Android as well as iOS applications, I won't have to go ahead and learn say Swift and also Java or Kotlin all at the same time. I could just use React and do it. Now another thing, like as I progressed further along my journey, there was another thing, reusing logic. So I could write web applications. So I was like really interested in building cross platform applications. Maybe I have a side project that I want it to be cross platform or something, right? So what I could do is I could write the logic once for web, and I could reuse it for Android as well as iOS. And as someone who wants to create relatively smaller projects, it's a big deal for me that I won't have to learn many technologies. And even if you are having a like a huge company, then it's still a big deal, because you could potentially save a lot of money by reusing logic, as you won't have to hire different teams who write JavaScript and Java, and like, because like the more languages, the difficult it gets to maintain them. And there are other reasons, like if you want to train your team with like JavaScript, for JavaScript, then you could train all your teams individually, and you won't have to invest in multiple ecosystems. And so I talked about my initial skepticism early, but as I started use like learning about React Native, my first reaction was, what apps use React Native? And we see Instagram use React Native, and React Native is truly native like experience. And Airbnb, I guess, even said that they found no differences between native apps and the apps that were written in React Native. So this was the beginner things. Now let's talk about React to React Native. So I have been a React developer for quite a while now, and I have been writing React code for 1.5 years or something. And I used just like I didn't want to immediately get into React Native, because I was still learning React and I was still making side projects in it. And I was like, I got really vested into uh, Mm, actually, I'm having a comment. Why he is comparing to Java with React? I don't see any similarity between Java and React. So the reason that I'm comparing Java and React uh, is that if you want to make applications, then you have choices, right? Either you could learn React Native, or you could learn Java or Swift to make web applications. That's why I started as a point that uh, you could be like having an entry barrier with Java, sort of, if you don't have a good machine. Whereas uh but I'm not saying that I'm saying that I don't have a personal opinion. I don't have a strong opinion about Java in general, that you should or you should not learn it. But for me, for 13-year-old me, it was Java was hard, right? But that H1 tags and that hello world was simpler. So yeah, let's talk about my transition from a React developer to React Native. So recently, I had to like learn React Native for work purposes, and so I decided to give React Native a go and see how simple is that. Uh, okay, yeah, and then the first thing that struck me was seeing React Native website was Vue. And I thought that there might be a couple of the differences, and there might be a lot of things with and the only major differences were a few tags, like you have to use views instead of divs. And yeah, and that's it. Like that's and you have to, for performances, and learn a bit more about few components like flat list and things. And that's it, you're good to go with React Native. It was really simple. And I haven't used the native CLI of React Native, because I asked uh, asked my manager about it, and he said that you're good to go with Expo, because we will be using Expo in our team. uh, so let's talk about styling now. For styling, React Native uses Flexbox. And as a experienced React developer, um, experienced CSS developer, Flexbox has been really simple. And Flexbox Froggy was so if any one of you are like not familiar with Flexbox and you're still using, I definitely recommend you check out something called Flexbox Froggy. That would help you get started with Flexbox really easily. So uh, yeah, and mm, so and like this is it for styling. There's like a few minor differences, like you have vertical padding and horizontal padding, and those there are like just a few differences, but the styling is just very similar to CSS. So let's talk about developer experience. So I don't have any strong opinions about using Expo or React Native CLI, and as I already mentioned, I have not taken a look at React Native CLI right now. But so far, my experience as a React developer with uh, Expo has been really great. And even if I like, sometimes I just like, if I don't want to like, oh, develop the application with my mobile, I can just open the view in my browser and start doing things. But I do recommend using a mobile. In fact, I do use a smartphone to test my applications, as it is the more optimal way. But Expo does provide a lot of good options. So let's talk about the community if you want support. And JavaScript is a great community. We have Stack Overflow, and everything is just full of support when it comes to React and React Native. And like, whatever the challenges I have faced till now have been really good. So thank you. And someone posted a link for Flexbox Froggy. So thanks, Shantanu, for that. And so my Twitter is Yash Gupta Z. It's right there at the bottom. And yeah, thanks for coming. That's it.
Hi again, Yash.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for all the information. I'm pretty sure you must have convinced a lot of people to start developing React Native now, in React Native now.
yeah,
Although we have a few questions coming in from the viewers.
yeah.
Uh, we have a question from Gino. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Uh, so, Gino says that uh, I am torn in choosing between React Native and Flutter. So, which one would you recommend for someone who came from backend development and is absolutely new to mobile app development?
Hmm. Interesting. So I would say that if I were the person, then I would like try both of them and stick to what I like the most.
Uh-huh.
And like read about them, what it really depends. If you are specifically looking for a job, I would look on surveys of Stack Overflow that like which have higher paying salaries and something things like that. And where I live, do I have React Native jobs or do I have Flutter jobs? So there are a lot of variables that goes into it. React Native just worked out better for me because I was coming from a web development background, and I had this barrier of hardware where I could like run Android Studio, and the running of emulator was really slow. So I was forced into the web, and that's how I got into React Native. And I literally code React Native in my web right now.
Okay, that's amazing. So I hope that answers the question. Also, Akshay asked that he's new to front end, so if he should start with React Native or if you suggest something different. I think that's pretty much answered. It's more
Yeah,
about exploration,
it's
if
more
I'm
about
right.
exploration and circumstances that you have.
Right. Okay. We have another question by Live Coding. They're asking, what is the best way to style React and React Native apps, in your opinion?
Eh, like I have looked onto a lot of ways, and what I like is I personally like to use styled components with React, but I haven't I haven't made much scale of projects with React Native, so I'm not going to have an opinion about React Native. As I said earlier, that I started using React Native just this month, and I have been just a React developer before this.
Okay. Have you come across native base yet?
A native, can you say that
Have,
again?
have, you, have you come across native base yet?
Native, no,
Native
I
base.
didn't. No, I didn't have I had the opportunity to eject out of React Native and
Uh-huh.
write some code uh, in some other native languages.
I'll
If
give it a
you
shot.
need
I
that,
think you like it.
yeah, maybe
Look it up.
sometime in
Anyway,
future.
yeah, perhaps. Anyway, thank you so much for being with us here, Yash, and sharing all of your insight. We would love to have you towards the end of the event. So please stick
Yeah,
around. Uh, Thank you so much. And we'll see you towards the end of the session.